It began on an ordinary Thursday night, the kind of night where nothing feels remarkable enough to remember. Except, of course, for what came after. Ethan Cole sat hunched on his couch, microwaved spaghetti steaming on his lap, an old true crime rerun flickering in front of him. The world outside his apartment was quiet. Suburban stillness wrapped in the hum of distant streetlights and the occasional passing car. A storm was supposed to roll in that weekend, but for now, calm. Then, the noise hit. That god-awful tone, shh, ripped through the room, shrill enough to make his fork clatter against the plate. His TV, phone, and laptop all blared the same sound at once. Ethan winced, fumbling for the remote. But something was off. Through the thin apartment walls, he didn't hear anyone else's alert going off. No TV hum from the next unit, no phones buzzing down the hall. Just his. He muted the TV, but the sound didn't stop. The tone drawn from his phone, his speakers, even his old clock radio. The whole apartment seemed to vibrate with it. Then, abruptly, the tone cut out. The silence that followed was so sudden it made his ears ring. He glanced at his TV, expecting the usual test screen. Red bars, Truth Government insignia, a robotic voice announcing a system test. Instead, the message on screen read ERGNCY, ERSYSTCM, SETN-COE. He stared, the words taking a moment to register. That wasn't how those alerts worked. Before he could reach for his phone, the robotic voice began to speak, flat and emotionless, but unmistakably addressing him. This is an emergency alert system broadcast for Ethan Cole. Please remain calm. Do not leave your residence. Further instructions will follow. Ethan's throat tightened. What the hell? He grabbed his phone, but the alert was there too, his name, blinking, followed by a live video thumbnail. His stomach dropped as he tapped it. Static first. Then, a faint image emerged. A dark, grainy video feed of a room. His room. Same couch. Same lamp in the corner. Same crooked painting he'd been meaning to straighten for weeks. But in the feed, there was someone sitting on the couch. Someone who looked exactly like him. The double stared straight into the camera for a long, unnerving moment before speaking. Ethan, it said in his own voice, calm and distant. Don't look behind you. Ethan froze. Every instinct screamed to check the hallway, the doorway, something. But he couldn't move. He could only sit there, pulse thrumming in his neck. The air in the apartment changed. Thick, charged, the faint smell of something burnt. He wanted to believe this was a prank, a hacked feed, anything that wasn't what it looked like. The double on screen tilted its head slightly, almost pitying. You can't hear them yet, it said. But they can hear you. And then the video cut to static. The microwave clock flashed nonsense digits, 3E66, 3067, 3D68, and the lights dimmed for a fraction of a second. Somewhere deep inside the walls, a faint thud echoed, like something heavy had shifted. Ethan stood, heart pounding, scanning the room. The smell of static was stronger now, a metallic tang that filled his mouth. He took a step toward the TV, but it flickered back to life on its own. This time, there was no double, just a blank gray screen with text. D-O, no, T-R-N-R-U-N-D. E-T-H-E-C-G-N-L-C-S-Y-O-U. S-T-A-S-T-L. He could feel it now, something moving in the air behind him. Slow and deliberate. The sound was faint. A scraping, dragging noise that stopped whenever he breathed. Then his phone vibrated violently in his hand. N-E-W-L-R-R-C-E-D. He looked down. The message was short. It's already in your home. The visitor in the static. Ethan's fingers shook as he stared at the screen. His own name flashing on the phone. The same words over and over. Felt like a countdown. He wanted to throw the devices, smash them, anything to make the messages stop. But even as he lifted the phone, he noticed something impossible. The reflection in the black screen wasn't just him. A figure stood behind him. Tall, thin, and impossibly still. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, the outline blurred, like the edges of reality were bending around it. Ethan whipped around. Nothing. A cold draft brushed the back of his neck, and the hairs on his arms stood on end. The lights flickered again, and for a heartbeat, the figure appeared in the TV's reflection. Closer this time. It moved with jerky precision, like a puppet on invisible strings. The closer it got, the louder the humming from the devices became, until it filled the entire apartment, drowning out even his own terrified thoughts. Ethan stumbled back, tripping over the couch and landing hard. His phone slid across the floor, the screen still glowing. Static poured from the speakers, forming words he could barely make out. You opened the signal. Then a new alert flashed on the phone. EMRGMCY. Alert. Lum. The screen switched to the video feed again. His living room, the same as before, but this time the double was standing. It wasn't moving naturally. It jerked like the frame rate was off. Its eyes, black pits without reflection, focused on the camera. You can't escape. It said in a voice that was his, yet not. Deep, distorted, layered with something else, something ancient. The lights went out completely. Only the faint glow of his devices lit the room, casting shadows that seemed to writhe. The figure he'd glimpsed in the reflection now loomed behind the couch, impossibly tall, impossibly still. Ethan tried to scream, but no sound came out. His chest tightened, his lungs refused to cooperate. The air was thick, charged with something wrong. The double's voice continued, emanating from all devices at once. Every test, every alert was a doorway. You opened it. And now it follows. The entity moved closer in the reflection, though Ethan could see nothing in reality. He backed into a corner, his head pressed to the wall, trying to convince himself it was a hallucination. But then came the first touch, a cold pressure against his shoulder. He spun around. Empty. A whisper came from his ear, chilling enough to freeze the marrow in his bones. You shouldn't be here. Ethan's phone buzzed violently, the screen now displaying a countdown. 0:59. A timer counting down. From somewhere inside the walls, a low scraping started, steady and relentless, like fingernails across plaster. The figure in the reflection tilted its head, smiling, and Ethan realized it was mimicking his expression, mocking him. Panic surged, and he ran to the front door, but it wouldn't open. The doorknob wouldn't turn. He smashed it with his shoulder. Nothing. The pressure of the air seemed heavier, as though the room itself was pushing back. Then the lights flickered back, and the video feed returned. His double was sitting on the couch again, calm, hands folded. Do not fight it, it said. It wants you. It needs you. And there is nowhere to hide. From the corner of the room, Ethan saw it, his own shadow detaching from the floor, twisting unnaturally, forming the entity that had haunted the reflections. Its limbs stretched, fingers impossibly long, moving with a jerky, unnatural grace. It began crawling toward him along the walls, the floor, the ceiling, like gravity itself bent to its will. Ethan screamed this time, and the sound was swallowed immediately by the static buzzing through every device. He tried to cover his ears, but the vibration ran through the floor and walls straight into his bones. And then, everything stopped. The TV, the phone, the clock, all dead. Silence, thick and suffocating, filled the apartment. Ethan's chest heaved. He looked around. Nothing. Nothing moved. But when he glanced at the window, the city outside was wrong. Darker. The lights from neighboring apartments flickered and warped. Shadows crawling in impossible angles. In every reflective surface, he saw it. The tall, thin silhouette, always at the edge, smiling. Ethan knew then, with a certainty that made his blood run cold. It was inside the apartment. Not in the reflection. Not on the screen. Inside. He backed against the wall, shaking uncontrollably. His own name echoed in whispers from the devices that were now silent. Then, the lights flickered one final time. And the figure was there. The breach, Ethan's back pressed against the cold wall, his mind running in chaotic loops. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to escape, but there was nowhere to go. The apartment felt smaller than it had ever been, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Then he heard it, the slow, deliberate creak of floorboards, not from the hallway, not from his neighbor's apartment, but from inside his own living room. The hair on his arms stood on end. He peered around the corner. The room was empty, or so it seemed. Then the air shifted. A gust of cold blew through the room, carrying with it the static tang of burned circuits. His phone vibrated violently on the floor, even though it was completely dead. The screen lit up again, displaying a new alert: emergency ART, BRHFRMD. Below the alert, a single line of text appeared: "We are here, and we have been waiting." Ethan's pulse surged. He reached for the phone, but before he could touch it, the room warped. The edges of the walls blurred, melting like wet paint. The light from his TV flickered on by itself, casting long, grotesque shadows that crawled along the ceiling. And then he saw it, the figure, not in a reflection, not on a screen. There. It was tall, impossibly thin, its limbs unnaturally long and bent at impossible angles. Its face was featureless, a black void, yet he could feel eyes on him. Every movement it made was a jerky, stuttering mimicry of human motion, but it radiated intelligence. It knew him. Ethan's legs gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. The entity moved closer. Each step was silent, yet the floorboards groaned as if under an impossible weight. "You called us," it whispered, not with words, but directly in his mind. A voice like glass scraping metal, cold and precise. "Through the signal, through the test. You made the opening." Ethan scrambled backward, hitting the wall. The lights flickered again, and suddenly the double from the broadcast appeared, sitting on the couch. But this time, its eyes were black pits, mirroring the entity's voided face. "You cannot hide," it said. "You cannot fight. The system belongs to us, and you belong to it." Ethan's mind raced. He remembered the alerts, the tests he had ignored, the small beeping notifications from months ago he never took seriously. Each one was a thread in a web, and now the web had closed around him. The entity stepped forward, and the world seemed to resist. Gravity warped, shadows twisting unnaturally. The floor beneath Ethan warped like liquid, pulling at his feet. He tried to stand, tried to run, but his body refused. From the TV, the feed returned. His double raised a hand, pointing at him, as if orchestrating the terror. The entity mirrored the gesture, its movement perfectly synchronized. Panic ripped through Ethan, and he screamed, not just with his voice, but with the raw, primal terror of hunted by something beyond comprehension. And then it happened. The entity breached the boundary of the room. Not physically, but through the very air. A suffocating weight pressed against him, a presence so overwhelming, he felt his mind bending. Images flashed in his skull, rooms he'd never been in. Faces he didn't recognize, shadows moving behind every screen in the city. He screamed again, collapsing into himself, clutching at the floor, at the walls, at anything tangible. The double on the couch smiled. "Soon there will be two of you. Soon, the signal will carry you both." Ethan felt himself lifting off the floor, weightless, pulled toward the void behind the entity's featureless face. The room twisted, colors melting into one another. The TV screen expanded until it filled his vision entirely, static flooding his mind like a wave. "You made the opening," the entity whispered again, "and now you are ours." For a moment, there was nothing but cold darkness, a void stretching endlessly. Then, in the center, he saw it. Himself, or what he thought was himself, sitting calmly on the couch, smiling, staring directly at him through the void. The double's eyes were empty, mirroring the entity's featureless face. And then the entity struck.